Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody's doing well today. Um, so, what is this video about? Well, it is about the best case scenario for the Democrats at the gubernatorial level. What is the best that Democrats can do? Now, in a neutral environment, they probably, not neutral, but in a regular prediction, they probably would do at least somewhat well, just because they're the party out of power and they should have the momentum. But this would assume that they overperform expectations and just have a really good night. So this is what would happen in the Democrats' best case scenario. Before we get into it, though, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, especially if you enjoy non-biased election content that just gives you the news. All right, so let's get right to it. Safe states: California, Hawaii. We would assume that the two Republicans would not advance to the top of the ballot. I don't think it's going to happen. It is possible, but in this case, it definitely would not happen. Oregon would be over safe. Illinois, safe Democratic. Minnesota, that would also be safe Democratic as well. You would see Maine move up to safe. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, Kathy Hochul would win by over 10, as well as Josh Shapiro would win by over 10 in Pennsylvania, despite it being a purple state. He is a strong incumbent, and he has won pretty big before, so in the Democrats' best case scenario, he would be winning by over 10. Maryland would also be safe, and Colorado would be safe Democratic, as well as New Mexico. And that should probably be it for safe Democratic. These states should not really be competitive. Despite the blue wave in this prediction, Republicans would still run away with these states such as Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, even with Doug Jones running. And that is about it. That's probably it for now. We will now move on to likely states. One thing I forgot to mention is we do have Phil Scott running in Vermont. Well, we don't know if he's running. He's the Republican governor. He still wins by landslides, despite it being a deep blue state. He has not announced that he's running, so because of this being a best case scenario for the Democrats, we would assume that he retires. And his lieutenant governor does not run, and Democrats put up like the attorney general when they flip this race. So forgot about that. Vermont would go safe Democratic because we don't know that if Phil Scott has run, and since it's their best case scenario, we would assume that happens, and Democrats would pick up Vermont. Likely states, there would be a few of them. A lot of toss-up states that we have in this election would be going likely Democratic. Katie Hobbs would win by 5. This would be likely Democratic win. She would win re-election in Arizona. You would also see not as many likely Democratic states, but Wisconsin would be likely Democratic, as well as Michigan. Michigan is weird to predict. It could be a fluke type of election where either side, it could be very lopsided. We'd assume it's likely Democratic in this scenario. These are the likely states. Likely Republican. We basically only have one, which would be South Carolina. This would be likely. Can't really see it getting any more competitive than like around 8 or 9 points, but this would be likely. Florida would also be likely. Probably Byron Donalds would win by around 5. That's how I see it. I think Florida has just moved too far to the right to really see Democrats put a big enough dent in it. They're running Alexander Vindman. He's raising a lot of money, so we'll see what happens. But be about a 5-point win for the Republicans. Kind of like I can't really see Colorado getting down to lean blue. You know, Democrats have really ran away with the state. Some states have just shifted really far in a certain direction, and you know, the candidates could make a competitive race, but in the end, it'll still really not be super competitive at the end of the day. Those are the likely states. We now get on to leans. This is where it'll get really competitive. I would say Alaska would be leans Democratic. It's hard to say who the candidates are going to be because of their primary/general election system, their ranked choice voting. So we'd have to see what comes out on that. But they're running Begich for the Democrats this time. So with that name recognition, in this scenario, Democrats would pick up Alaska as well as Nevada. I really am not comfortable with seeing Nevada going as likely just because of Republicans having a relatively strong incumbent in Joe Lombardo for Nevada, he would probably go down by around 4.5 in this scenario. I don't quite see it being as likely just because he's the incumbent. If this was an open seat, this could go likely Democratic. It is still a purple state, but this would be about a 4-point win for Aaron Ford, who is the Democrat running in this race. Lean Democrat for Nevada. Another leans Democratic state would be Iowa. This would be Rob Sand. He is the only statewide elected Democrat in Iowa. So he'd probably win by around 1 or 2 points against Republican Congressman Randy Feenstra. This is probably about a kind of a sort of a competitive race. I think it slightly favors the Republicans, but Democrats would be able to peel this race off just because of this scenario. Democrats would also flip Iowa. You would be a similar situation in Ohio. You'd see Amy Acton probably win by around 1 or 2 points against Vivek Ramaswamy. Polling indicates that this race is very competitive. Usually, by the end, the undecideds and independents just flock to the Republicans in the last month of the race, which always makes it go towards the GOP at the end. We would assume that this stays consistent throughout the year, and Ramaswamy would probably lose Ohio by around a point. So Democrats, in the best case scenario, would end up picking off Ohio. Another leans Democratic state would be Georgia. Again, it's really hard to say. This could go likely Democratic. Maybe just for the sake of this video, I'll have it as likely, because this is the best case scenario. It's probably going to be borderline between 4 and 5 points. I haven't seen a statewide Democrat win by over 5 before in modern history. It could happen, but Georgia does typically prefer Republican leadership. But I probably would have it as about 5-point win for Democrats in Georgia. Now we get down to the really, really competitive states. The leans Republican, which is really one state, which would be Texas. Greg Abbott is the incumbent. He is running. It's really hard to say if the challenger the Dems put up this year will be a good tier candidate. You had Beto O'Rourke go up, who did pretty good in the Senate election, but lost by a lot to Greg Abbott. So I think he's had a few hiccups along the way, but he usually ends up winning by a little bit in Texas. So we'll see this. If whoever the Dems decided to put up will probably make this race pretty close. It'd probably be only about 2 points for Texas. I just see that since Abbott's the incumbent and he's won before, I'd still say he ends up winning, but it would be very close. Probably be around a point or two in Texas. In the reasonable scenario. And then we'll move to the tilt states. We have 2 of them. We'll start off with Kansas. Republicans are hoping to flip this. The Democrats have Laura Kelly as their governor. She is term limited, so she can't run again. And the lieutenant governor is not running. So they don't really have a candidate to run. Republicans are probably going to nominate Scott Schwab, who is the Secretary of State. In this case, you'd see that since Democrats have won before and they still have a Democratic governor, you would be able to have the Democrats win this state again because you'd be able to carry it over. It is open to being competitive at the state level. Despite being more conservative at the federal level, you would see Democrats narrowly able to pick this state and hold it. You'd see Kansas be tilt D for the Dems. And the last state, arguably, would be New Hampshire. This would be tilt Democratic in the best case scenario. The situation with New Hampshire is that it's one of the states, it leans kind of blue at the federal level, but more conservative at the state level. If Kelly Ayotte was retiring, I would see this race be a very good opportunity for either sides to compete in because it's a ticket-splitting state. However, Ayotte is the freshman governor, and she's taken a more moderate approach to being governor. And she's probably going to run. She is running for her second term, so she will be She will be running again. Kamala Harris won the state by 3 in 2024, and Ayotte won by 8 or 9. So she seemed to overperform a lot. She isn't able to get independents to vote for her. So it's hard to imagine her going down. But in this scenario, we'd assume that something would happen, or in some circumstance. And New Hampshire is still open to electing Democrats a lot. So we would assume that Democrats would be able to pick off New Hampshire, and they would finally be able to retain the majority of governorships across the U.S., 31 to 19. So this would currently be the map. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you did enjoy this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe for more non-biased election content. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next video.